Hello and welcome to another exchange, Lord Jesus. Cut. Hello and welcome to another episode of Courageous Exchanges. I'm Joy.
And I'm Alex.
And we have to have a very important conversation. So we started talking about dating, and I apologize that the shit didn't do all the things it should have done, okay? I am learning. I don't know if I didn't upload something. I don't know. Part of the conversation didn't happen. And also, there's so much more about dating we can talk about. So we're like, let's keep on going with the dating and relationship conversation. So a thing that I wanted to talk about where we kind of left off-ish was...
And had very differing opinions.
Is you said a man that doesn't love his mother will never love you.
That's not what I said.
Okay, what would you say?
Something like that. Okay. But I think what I meant to convey is more so a man who doesn't love his mother is a red flag.
Okay. And I said I don't necessarily think it's a red flag because his mama might not be great.
Mm-hmm.
Mothers aren't always perfect, and there could be a reason.
Yes.
But what I want to come back and say is, I don't necessarily think it's the man who doesn't love his mom. I think it's the man who thinks his mama didn't love him.
Yes. I think that is a very important clarifier, and I never thought about it that way until you said it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yes, that relationship is usually fractured because the man, doesn't think that his mom loves him for whatever reason.
Right. And I think that plays a real interesting role in a relationship, because if a man has never felt like his mother loves him, similar to if a woman feels the same way. I mean, if you feel like your mother doesn't love you, that kind of impacts how you interact with people when it comes to love, how you show up in relationships. Well, I think a big thing that we were saying with this in general is that you have to do the work. This is your life. These things have happened to you. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, but you got to do the work on you.
Yes, because you could only, use the line, or I shouldn't say the line. Let me be a little bit more sensitive here. You can only use your story or your past to explain the way that you're showing up today, but for so long, right? So we can acknowledge that
if you don't do anything for it.
Right. Yeah. Right. So I think that is an important piece to clarify, and I'm sure and would love to hear from people who have fractured relationships with their parents and have done the work and have been able to have, not repeat those patterns, or to have positive and productive relationships, romantic relationships, because there is a difference after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's key. Like, if you're not going to work on the thing, it's never going to change. It's always going to affect you the same way. It's like, if you're tired, you don't go to sleep, you're going to stay tired. Mm-hmm. If you're hungry, you don't eat, you're going to stay hungry. It's the same thing with trauma. It's the same thing with whether you would identify it as trauma or just something that happened, or I just had a rough life. Again, if you don't do the work around that, you're going to continue to yield the same results. You're going to probably not be a great partner. Mm-hmm. Or you're going to search for somebody who is going to be a parental figure to you, and then now they're taking over that parent role and they're raising you. Mm-hmm. Not raise some niggas. And I don't want to anymore.
I'm not in.
You got to come grown up.
Mm-hmm. Very grown, very self-sufficient. Again, support, right? Fine. But I'm not in the business of raising nobody.
Cause you can't raise a man. He's already grown. What you gonna do? You wonder why he acts like a fool. Cause he wasn't raised right before you.
Thank you, Joy. The musical stylings of Miss Joy.
Thank you, Michelle, for that.
Email Courageous Exchanges for bookings.
I do bar mitzvahs, I do birthday parties, I do weddings. But you said something about the partner you pick.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
So this week, I had come across a quote that said that the first step in breaking generational curses is choosing the correct partner. And that spoke to me because I find that so many times we or people choose partners that remind them or that have many similar characteristics to the people who raised you. People always say, yes, you marry your father, you marry your mother, or whatever. And sometimes that works out great.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the times, this is the way that you're perpetuating the negative patterns that you grew up with, right, and the generational curses that you grew up with.
Because even if it wasn't the best, there's some comfort that comes with familiarity.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're like, oh, I know how to operate in this kind of dynamic, sometimes you stay. Sometimes you're like, oh, I know how to navigate this because my mom was like this. Or I know how to navigate this because my dad was like this. Well, are you really doing yourself a disservice in being with this person?
And essentially all you're doing is perpetuating what you've always done. Mm-hmm. So with that quote made me think about the fact that, like, we have to be so intentional and thoughtful about what are the things we want to keep and what are the things that we want to leave behind, mm-hmm, from our childhood. Mm-hmm. And that quote just kind of brought me to that space and thinking about, like, even the choices that I've made in my life. Like, you know, I have a very strong relationship with my dad, right? And so many would say I'm, you know, very, very closely connected with him. We're very similar in many ways. And so I would say that many of the partners that I choose do have threads of my dad's personality, or like different ways that he does things. There are certain things that I look for because that's what I expect, because right, I believe that's your first exposure to right, male-female relationships. So, you know, things like, you know, stability, trustworthiness, mm-hmm, strong character, a family person. Mm-hmm. Those are all things that I saw in my dad, and so I think that those are things that are very important to me in choosing my partner.
Yeah. I'm like, have I dated my dad before? Probably. I'm sure that there are characteristics. I'm trying to think. Because, you know, it's hard, and I think of the negative ones.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I don't know. I told you I'm a recovering negative person. I'm working on it. But it's like, I think of like the things that I loved about my dad were stability, were that he didn't believe in gender roles in the sense, mm-hmm, of like, my dad was the person who cleaned. Yeah. He did laundry. So I think about that when I think about, like, I'm never going to do a man's laundry. I don't want to. I don't.
Is that a hard line for you? I did not know that.
It's a pretty hard line. My dad did the laundry. Even like after I moved out, my dad would be like, I'll come do your laundry, or like, bring it over and I'll do it for you. Wow. I just can't think of doing a man's laundry.
Would you allow a man to do your laundry?
Yes! But my dad was like the one that cleaned. We got up every morning at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and clean doorknobs. But things like that, like a man who wants his space to look nice, is important to me. Because I think about, you know, people that it's like, oh, you can't live with a man because they're dirty, or like, men are dirty. And no. Anytime I've lived with a partner, I've lived with 2 partners. One was messy and one wasn't. And the messy one, it would stress me out because I felt like, this is not my responsibility to clean. This is your mess. So I'd leave it. I will walk over it several times.
So interesting.
I'm not cleaning up after you. Sorry for that.
Wow.
Because I grew up I grew up in a house where you did it for yourself, or my dad did it.
Mm-hmm. And I grew up in a very different space. Again, a Haitian household. Even though my stepmom was American, my father was very much the strong presence in the home. Uh-huh. And in many ways, traditional roles, mm-hmm, mostly, mm-hmm, although my father did cook. Mm-hmm. My father did take care of us and, you know, iron and do our hair and all that good stuff, but didn't clean. Like, he would clean, but like, my mom would more so be the one to like really like do chores. No. And if anything, the chores annoy my dad. He'd be like, we gotta go out and like have fun or like go do this or go do that. We're not gonna spend the whole day cleaning, and don't make the kids clean, and we got things to do.
Okay.
And so that is very different from what your experience was.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's normal to like be the one in charge of like the cleaning and picking up the house.
Mm-mm. No, like, shout out to Rasheen. Ugh. So funny. Anyway, this is funny. But he was a very clean, neat person. And so our space was clean and neat. Everyone took care of their own stuff.
Wow.
We all know the thing we did together was we got into meal prepping at some point. So we cooked together and but even going to the grocery store, we're both doing this. I
think the grocery store, yes, because my dad cooked.
Mm-hmm. My dad can only make eggs, and even though sometimes very watery and weird.
Okay,
he can make eggs and cheese toast.
Cheese toast, yum.
And hot dogs.
Okay,
but he would make a hot dog sandwich. But other than that, my mom did the cooking, and my mom was the primary caregiver for me.
Really?
My dad was the fun parent. He'd be let's eat ice cream. What do you want from the store?
Mm-hmm. And so in your ideal partner, those are the things that you would like to keep.
Yes. I don't want to have to pick up after somebody. I don't want to feel and we'll talk about this another time. This is probably why I don't want to have children, because I don't want to be the primary person doing the things. Mm. And I get that there's breakdown, there's you do this, I got this, but I don't ever want to feel this shit is not equitable.
That is so real. That's what I think a lot of women probably feel that way though, but I think that there's something about feeling that this is your job. I think gender roles are real. I think that if you are not subscribed to gender roles, that's an important conversation to have when you are picking a partner. Mm-hmm. I don't think that there's a right or wrong, and I also don't think it's black and white.
Mm-hmm. I agree. You have to also do what works for you.
Yeah.
You have to be honest. Exactly. Because if you're I don't believe it, or I believe in gender roles, and you're cooking every night because you're a woman and that's the expectation, and you're I wish you would cook. Well, bitch, you just told me.
That's right.
You signed up for gender roles, and in my mind, that means you cook.
That's right.
You have to have these really specific and clear conversations, because you get in a situation and you're I don't want to do that anymore. And it's well, that's what I thought you signed up for.
It's so true. And it's funny because that you bring up cooking, because although I'll do the cleaning, I can cook. It's not what I like to do.
Yeah.
I don't like going to the grocery store and making all the plans and the decisions around what's going to be cooked and all of that. So it's not what I like to do. And so for me, that's not a gender role that I'm interested in doing.
Right.
I will clean up, but I don't want to do the cooking. For many men, that's a huge issue.
Yeah. I have the conversation. You have to. If you're I want to marry somebody.
Yeah.
What does being a wife or being a husband mean to you? What does that mean to your partner? Do those things align? And if they don't, is it something you can communicate and talk about? Or is it a deal breaker? We talked about negotiables and non-negotiables last time. And in the conversation we were having earlier, we were talking about lists. And you were I think lists and non-negotiables are different. And I'm oh, interesting, because I feel on my list are my non-negotiables.
Okay. And for me, maybe it's just the word list. It's funny because I use lists often in my life. Every time I'm doing something, I have a list.
Okay.
But when it comes to relationships, I find, or dating, I find that lists are limited. Okay. And I don't like the idea of being confined to a list.
Okay. See, I feel lists are clarifying and become specific. Now, you can become limited in being specific, but if you God, I want a man, and God just brings you a man in age and identity, that don't mean they're gonna have all of that other stuff. So my list is less physical, more character based, and more non-negotiables and non-negotiables. It's I don't mind. I mean, I'm about to be 40. I don't mind a man with kids.
Yeah.
You can't. There's a cap on how many kids you can have. Because I think there's a point that's like, that's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Shout out to the people with a lot of kids. I don't want you to have 10 kids.
And it's so interesting that you say that because I am 40, and if I were on the market right now, I would not be wanting to date someone with kids.
I just feel like I'm at
That makes very grown kids.
Right, I don't necessarily want you to have a 6 month old.
How about 6 years old?
I don't mind a 6-year-old. I know there's people that like they gotta be over 3 or under 3 is. I don't like.
I just think that because I haven't done it often, I haven't dated many men with kids.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I haven't dated. I don't know, but whatever. I don't think I did.
Nah, I don't think. I don't think
I have.
Hiding their kids. They can hide their kids from me up.
And they was.
They do be hiding their wives.
Jokes.
Oh my God. No, that happened to me. He was hiding his wife and his 4 kids. Oh, Jesus. You know, I think I've dated 4 men with kids.
Okay.
One I didn't know about. He had 4 kids. One had a daughter who lived in another state with her mother. Every weekend he went to go see her. And I was like, what y'all gonna do? You like, why you gotta go to your big mother's house? Why she can't? Why your daughter can't come here? Your daughter, who's from New York. And then one had older kids, like high school senior and daughter in college. But he was like, this one I still kind of want the kids. He was like, well, I don't want kids because my daughter's not gonna be okay with that. What the fuck? You gotta do with your life, but okay. And then one who had like a older, like a teenager, but a younger teenager.
Yeah.
Older kid. What is that?
Yeah.
But it was like, if you have like 6 kids, that's a lot of children.
That is too many.
I agree. I also have on my list, you can have X amount of kids, but you can't have, like, every kid can't have a different mom.
You got real specific with that. Also, the amount of time that you spent unpacking the kid item on the list,
I know,
is very interesting to me.
I don't care if you have them. But if you have 4 kids, they can't have 4 moms.
Okay, I think that's fair, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Like,
so to me, my list have my non-negotiables. My lists are not like, he must be 6 feet tall. I don't necessarily want you to be 4 feet tall, but like, I don't, like, if you are 5'7", I'm not like, get away.
I think that for me, I've never had a list. I do have non-negotiables, but never a list. But it's funny that you say that because I remember maybe a few years ago we were having a similar conversation. You were talking to me about when you pray, you have to be specific. And I find that I've been a lot more specific when I pray. There was a time in my life where I was praying for certain things, and I was maybe more list-like in my prayers, and especially as they related to a mate, but was very specific also about the characteristics of that person. And so I think like when I'm thinking about like lists and non-negotiables, that was the only time. And you know, I think that those things have come to fruition now. But I think about women who sit and have like a list of like 10 to 15 things.
I mean, my list is...
What is on your list? Because I don't even know. Okay, share some things on your list.
Like, you gotta be kind.
Okay. Yeah.
The thing about the children and the baby mothers.
Get to the juicy stuff.
It's not juicy though. It's really like, you must believe in mental health and therapy. Like, if you haven't been to therapy, you have to be open to going at some point. Individually and couples. Because again, I think that relationships are 2 or more people who come from different backgrounds, different parents, different lifestyles, and you need to be on the same page of what you're Therefore, what you think relationships are, what you think marriage are, if you plan on having children, how you think parenting looks. I think these are things that people just think, well, if I think this is what being a wife is, this is what my partner thinks.
But
and then
not.
you get in a and I use this example with a client. I'm like, if your partner thinks that being a wife, having a wife means my wife does cartwheels on Tuesdays, and every Tuesday this nigga like, this bitch don't do cartwheels. And at some point he's like, you're not a good wife because you're not doing cartwheels. Well, you never told me that that's what you were looking for. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to have these conversations. So to me, my list is like, if I'm like, so, because I've dated men and I've been like, I'm in therapy. And they're like, are you crazy? Ooh. That's a
yeah, you got
automatic turn out.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, I understand why that would be a non-negotiable.
Or like, you can't be doing worse than me financially. Mm. I don't want struggle love. I'm not saying
that's a hot take.
I'm not saying you gotta be a billionaire, but I don't want to struggle. Our salary needs to be the same, or yours needs to be higher.
What if? Okay, let's stay here for a moment.
Okay.
So how do you broach that conversation when you're dating someone and maybe you're not there yet? So like, how does that even?
I think you can tell.
Okay.
Where are we going on dates? Do you plan dates? Are there fucking dates? There are people in relationships that don't go on dates. Okay. What is texting what you doing all day? That's not real.
It's giving broke.
Thank you.
You can't afford to date.
Are all of our dates walks?
Yeah.
Are all of our dates in the park?
Yeah.
And if that's where you are financially, you need to communicate that or you shouldn't be dating.
Yeah.
But I think you should have a certain amount. And I know the last time I said I wish I went on dates with this last person, we was just an ID.
Yeah.
That's a slight exaggeration. I would bring a card. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect to use it, but I had it just in case. And there were times I'd be like, I'm going to treat you. Mm-hmm. But if all the time we're going Dutch or we don't do nothing, then I, at 40, am not the person you should be dating.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm not dating in my 20s. If I'm dating in my 20s, we might be both struggling. Mm-hmm. And it might be struggling because we're young. Mm-hmm. But at 40, at 39 or 40 or whatever, I just don't expect you to be in that position.
What if he's fallen on hard times? He's always been employed, and now he's in a position where maybe he's lost his job unexpectedly. Maybe he has some new expenses. How do you deal with that?
I need to see what that looks like. I need to see what your hustle looks like, what your everyday getting up. Yes, you're applying for jobs, you're going on interviews, but what are you doing in the meantime? Are you sitting and collecting unemployment, which is cool? I don't mind that. Are you actively looking for jobs? Are you like, let me take on a side hustle so I have some money in my pocket? Or do you say, hey, babe, at this time I can't date because I can't afford to. But I don't want you to be asking me for money.
What if the conversation...
If we're just dating? What if, in a relationship, you're in a relationship that holds you down.
And you're in a relationship and your partner loses his job.
Okay.
And he's been out of work.
Yes, that's different.
Okay.
I'm in a relationship. But again, I still want to see you applying for jobs. Again, can you pick up something else for money? Mm-hmm. I think it's so corny. Uh-oh. Controversial, maybe. Unpopular opinion, maybe. I think it's so corny for a man to sit on his ass and watch his woman work hard and he not try to get up and do nothing. I think that's terrible.
I think that that's something that is very foreign for me, and especially for the way that I grew up. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just is very different from the way that I grew up. I wonder, because I know that right now the climate has changed so much economically.
I'm not saying it's easy. It took me forever to find a part-time job. Mm-hmm. And I have a master's degree and I've been working since forever.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get that it's not easy. But like, is it not easy and you're not, because you're not trying? Is it not easy because the things are not aligning? But again, are you like, babe, I'm going to do DoorDash.
Yeah.
Babe, I'm going to go work at the grocery store and bag groceries.
Would you be okay with your man doing DoorDash because he lost his job? So he's delivering food.
That's fine.
And you're okay with that?
As long as when he's not doing DoorDash, he's applying for jobs and going on interviews.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But if I walk in my house and you want a video game,
okay. Now,
I'm triggered.
Because you're a mental health professional, I think this is worth having a conversation about.
Okay.
What if your partner is not looking for jobs or whatever, because now, because of this period in his life, there's also some mental health struggles that are happening. And so he cannot, or does not have the tools or the resources or the ability to get out there and look for work right now.
So then we need to be working on your mental health. Again, there has to be working on something.
Yeah.
I'm willing to help anybody or support, let me not say help, support anybody who's willing to support themselves.
Yeah.
If you are laying on the couch and you're like, I'm so depressed, I can't get up, well, baby, let's work on this depression. I'm with the shit. I'm with that.
Yeah.
I'm with that. But if you're like, I'm depressed and I can't get up and I don't want to work, I can't work, but I don't want to go to therapy either.
Yeah.
You're giving liability now.
Yeah.
And that sounds so harsh. But again, I'm talking as a 40-year-old woman. I'm not talking about somebody in my 20s.
Yeah.
In my 20s, whatever.
Yeah. I think that things change so rapidly, and I think that especially with relationships, I'm just very aware almost of like life comes at you fast.
It does.
And you have no idea what's around the corner. You pray that things, stay, stable and where they need to be, and that hardship doesn't come. But you know that it's around the corner, a lot of the time.
Again, and that's why on my list is someone who's not doing worse than me.
Yeah.
Because if a hard time hits, it should be a cushion.
Yeah.
If a hard time hits, we shouldn't be homeless.
Yeah, that's true.
In this age and stage of our lives.
Yeah, you're right.
Where I don't have parents that I could go live with. And I'm not like if I'm married, let's say married. Because if I'm dating, I can do that all by myself. Whatever. If I'm married, my husband loses his job. My job isn't enough to pay for our home. And we have to go live with his parents for a while. I'm not mad at that. As long as we have an active plan and we are working hard.
Yeah. To
find something to get back on our feet. I'm not mad at that.
Yeah.
If we have been dating for 6 months to a year, holler at me when you get back on your feet, playboy.
Yeah.
If we have been in a relationship for 5 years, and you lose your job, I'm gonna go as hard as I see you go hard. Again, if your mental health is a concern, let's work on your mental health. But if you're not putting that effort into that either,
yeah.
How do I know if my shit falls apart? You want to support me.
And that is some real shit, because I know of situations where somebody supports the partner as they're going through a hard time. And then one thing about them tables, they turn. And them motherfucking tables turned.
Well, now you sitting there.
Child. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I think this is me talking for me and my life and my experience. I've dated people. In my first relationship, and he and I have had this conversation. I'm like, we were really trying to do really adult things, and we were really not mature enough. I was 21, he was 22, and his mindset was always, and he said it from the beginning, when I'm 30, I'll get married. You are 22 now, so you say for the next 8 years you're going to be on some fuck shit, and was.
Yeah.
It was. And so, did it ever occur to him I could do it before 30? And it never occurred to me at some point it did, obviously. But it wasn't ever like, I need to listen to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I need to not try to change your mind. If you don't believe so you can do these things until 30, holler at me when you're 30. If I'm available, maybe we'll see. If I'm not, then you've lost me. But people try to hold on to things.
Yep. And we had this conversation in part 1 of this episode around, like, a lot of the times people will tell you exactly where it is that they are. And the issue is that, especially as women, we stay there and hold on in hopes of this person changing their mind.
Yes.
And very rarely does that happen. And then you're mad at that person because they're not meeting the expectation that you had set. When in all actuality, they told you what they were about from the beginning, and you undersold yourself by sitting there and thinking that if you were just amazing enough and beautiful enough and cooked enough and cleaned enough and gave enough money and was nice to his mama and his sister and his, that it would work and that you would get what you wanted. And baby girl, that usually doesn't happen.
And then if it doesn't, you automatically turn it around on, I'm not enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't pretty enough. And it's like, no, it was the wrong person for you. It wasn't your person.
And he told you.
And he told you. That nigga told me by 30. And he is 41. About to be 41. I don't know. But he guys like, I don't know.
Yep. And I think we've all been guilty of that, right? Like, not saying that, like, everyone has been in situations where you stay for too long or you don't listen to what the person is telling you. Because you're like, I can make a difference. Yes. I am so amazing. And you should think you're so amazing. But also, if somebody is like, I don't give a fuck how amazing you are, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And that's fine. And guess what? They have a right. Like, that's the other thing, too, is like,
that's a huge part of it.
You can't punish somebody for living the life that they want to live.
Yeah.
They're imposing their will and they're living the life that they want to live. You have to do that for yourself. You can't expect somebody to do that for you. And I feel like women need to be more comfortable in making those statements.
We talking now, baby.
And matching their actions with that. Like, yo, it's fine. You don't want to be married. You don't want to have children. You don't want to be in a committed relationship. That's fine. But this is what I want. And so now my actions are going to match and be aligned with the goals that I have for myself and the dreams that I have for myself. So many women are uncomfortable with standing in that. They're embarrassed to say that they want children. They're embarrassed to say they want to be married, or they don't want to cause a fight or a conflict in their relationship by asserting themselves around certain things.
That's a whole other topic. Not wanting to cause conflict.
Yes.
And so you live with the conflict inside of you.
That's right. And it's like, it's such a crazy thing that, like, again, I'm a woman, so I speak from that purview. And, like, men, though at least the men that I see and that I've been, around, are usually very clear with stating what they want and what they don't want.
Unless they're lying and scamming.
But
even that, I think you know.
Yeah. I don't, frequent a lot of liars and scammers, thankfully. But, like, I know so many amazing women who are just starting to get to that space of saying out loud what it is that they want. And again, I think that's courageous too. Like, being able to say, like, this is what it takes to be with me. Yeah. This is the life that I want for myself. And these are the steps that I'm taking to get there. And if you don't fit into that vision, it's fine.
It's fine.
But please, exit stage left.
Yes. And for women, I think we got to stop. I said this before, trying to put a circle in a square.
Yep.
If it's not working, I get you don't want to start over. I get the dating pool has piss in it. I get it's hard to find a good I get it. But you are doing yourself a disservice. And something that I've been noticing a lot is, like, people who are now at this space of, like, my partner isn't, they're not giving what they were supposed to have given. Or they're giving what they've been giving, and I'm not that girl anymore. And so that's real, too. And so, like, we went out last night, we met this woman who's in her 50s, and she talked about, I'm restarting at 53 or whatever. But then she turned it and was like, oh my God, why aren't y'all married? Why y'all don't have kids? You're just starting, and you made a great point.
Yeah, and, like, essentially my point was, I'd rather be starting now at 40 than starting over at 50, 53, 55, actually, was, I think, somewhere around her age. And so, like, this is my journey. Right, and I'm very proud. I feel like I'm just getting started, baby. Like, life is about to take a turn, and it's about to be amazing, and I'm so proud of that. But it was so interesting that even in that moment where she was in a space where she needed support from us, because she was going through a major transition in her marriage and all of that, she still looked at us and said, you know, well, what took you so long to start? And I'm like, girl, baby girl, I don't ever want to be where you're at, you know, and not saying that it won't happen. I don't know. I can't predict the future. Right. But I feel very good being a place of starting versus starting over because I'm living my life according to society's timeline and whatever it is y'all think that people should be doing at certain ages.
One of the things my pastor and his wife said on a podcast, I think it was on Crystal Renee's podcast, Keep It Positive, Sweetie, maybe it's podcast. And he was saying, like, you know, starting older is sometimes better because you've done more work, you know yourself, and you're able to, like, kind of avoid that in between of, like, I don't really know who I am, so I'm hurting people, or I don't really know who I am, so I'm letting people hurt me. And so again, I agree. I'd rather find my person at 40 than have been with somebody since I was 20, and now I don't like them because they are the same person that they was when I was 20.
That's it. And also taking on all of the pain of being with someone that you are not matched properly with, or that is not aligned with who you are, or as you grow. Because now, not only have you spent X amount of years in that with that person that you had no business with, you have to do X amount of years of work to clear that off of you and then prepare for your next person. And so,
we met, almost 10 years ago. And we've been so many different versions of ourselves.
So true.
And so, like, I just think about the people who haven't done any work and who are still the same version of themselves, or the people who are changing and are stuck in systems. And I'm not just talking about intimate partners, your friendships, your family, your job. That stuff is not even, it doesn't even serve you anymore. You're still in it.
And I think that speaks to another thing that we've been talking a lot about is, like, the limiting self-beliefs. Like, although you're in this space where you have other dreams and you have other things that you want to pursue, but you're stuck in this group of people or this job or whatever it is that kind of holds you stagnant, right? And the fact that, like, the only restrictions that you have are the ones that you've imposed on yourself.
Absolutely.
And, like, it's so difficult to see somebody have that experience. It's almost like being caged, right? And, like, but you got this relationship that, you know, isn't serving you, isn't giving you the space to stretch out and grow. Because I truly believe that what leads to longevity in relationships is, like, number one, being with someone that you actually like and that you're friends with. And also being with someone who sees you and understands and wants you to be the best and fullest version of yourself.
Yes.
Not who they want you to be. Yes. Not who they think you were when they met you 20 years ago. Right. But, like, the person gives you the space to really stretch and grow and try new things, because you'll be surprised how many people are in relationships where they are confined. Whether it's, you know, not being able to socialize the way they want to, not being able to say the things that they want to say, be the kind of partner that they want to be, mother that they want to be, father that they want to be, whatever that is. And I feel like that's such an important part of having a long-lasting relationship. I know that there's more to it, but that, to me, and when we think about people growing and changing, you have to have somebody that gives you and supports you as you do that work.
And if your partner is growing and changing and you don't like it, you also have the right to say, I don't like that.
That's right.
And if you are growing and changing and they are not, and you want them to, and you communicate that and it's not happening, you also have the right to leave that too. You don't have to you don't have to be stuck or stay in a situation because you've been in it already. If it's not serving you, let it go. And I'm not saying that that's easy. I'm not saying that that's an process. But you are, again, doing yourself a disservice.
It's true. And I feel like there are so many people who, again, have those limiting self-beliefs, behaviors, ways of thinking and being, where it's just like, this is the way it's always been. This is the way my mom did it. This is the way my brother did it. This is the way that everybody did it. And so this
Clearly another part to this.
Yeah.
I think there's so much power in the like, well, my grandma and my mom and my da-da-da-da-da suffered and they made their marriages work. At what cost, though?
Right.
And maybe I'm just the girl that don't want to do hard work. Yes, I get that there's work, but I don't think it should fucking kill you.
Yeah.
I don't think you should give up your morals and beliefs and your health and your time and your finances for somebody that's not in it with you.
Yeah.
Just to say you're married? Just to say you're in a relationship?
You'd be surprised.
I mean, I know.
Yeah.
And I just think you do yourself a disservice. And I'm not saying, again, oh, it's hard, it's bad, we gotta abandon ship. Have conversations. Do the work. But if the work don't work, the conversations don't work, maybe the time has ended. I saw this post the other day and I was like, that's a really good point. It's like, every relationship we have is not forever. It is, but it's true.
Yeah.
Every friend is not gonna be your friend forever.
Yeah.
Every family member you're not gonna be close with forever. Every partner you have is just because you're even married to them, that doesn't mean that they're your forever. Maybe they were that in their moment. That's who you needed. And I think maybe, and I'm not saying like be disconnected, be detached, and blah blah blah. You might only be here for a season, but also like, if something is hurting you, it's okay to say this hurts me too much to stay in it.
I think that's real. And I would love to hear from like people who have done this and like have made those decisions. I think that my view on this particular topic is, again, very loaded as someone, again, who has waited longer and is in the space of wanting, you know, to have all of those things, but also someone who comes from divorce. It is something that I do not take lightly, and it's something that's painful, you know, for me. And so I understand that there does come a time where you do have to make the decision, if necessary, to do that. But my prayer is that you know, happens less and less, you know, for people, especially the people that are close to me.
But to your earlier point, you break that curse.
That's right.
You break that curse, and you break that potentially happening, and you're picking.
That's right. That's right.
If you're picking someone you're aligned with, and you kind of have the same visions and dreams of what family and relationship and finances and health and wealth, you know, all of the things that are important to you are also important to them. And if they're not, there's something you can learn, or they can learn from you, or they can teach you, or whatever. I think that those increase your chances of not having to have those conversations. I think some people were like, "Oh, I like you. Let's get married."
Yeah. Well, you cute.
You cute. And like,
it's so much more than that. It's
or I love you.
More.
Or I love you.
Even that.
And it's so much more than loving somebody.
Yeah.
You love somebody, but you don't respect them. You love a man, but you don't even trust him to lead you. So what happens when he has to, or he tries, and you don't let him, and then he feels emasculated by you? It's a lot. It's a whole lot. And I'm like, there's so many other parts of this conversation that, you know, relationships are in dating and even friendships and family. All of that stuff is stuff we're going to constantly be talking about because it's every day. Our relationships are our everyday experience. As we grow and learn more things, they will shift and change as well.
It's so true.
But what I do know is, again, in starting at this place that I am now, is that I don't want to struggle and I don't want to hurt. I'm not saying every day is going to be perfect and fucking skipping and flowers and shit. But if there are more days that are not that, don't sign me up for it. I don't want to not be delighted in my relationship. I don't want to not be delighted in the things that I'm doing. And maybe that's delusional, but if somebody's going to come and I'm going to be upset and sad and scared and feel unsafe, I would rather just be single.
I feel you. I feel you. I think that relationships are so much work. They're beautiful, when they're healthy, when they're rooted in mutual respect and kindness. But I will be the first to say, like, every day you make several choices about your relationship and the long-term implications of that relationship. Yeah. It is not something that is easy. But like I said, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing when you're matched with the right person. Right. And so, like, in thinking about getting out there and dating and, meeting different partners and things like that, just kind of like ask yourself some real questions about like, what are the things that you must have in your partner? And what are the things you need to change? What are the reflections that you need to make in order to make sure that you're ready for that partner when they come?
If you know, and again, we talked about like family, if you know that you come from a place where bad behaviors always happen, and like my mom was an enabler. It's easy for me to enable somebody. It took me being like, enabling you hurts me. I can't do that anymore. So I can't do that in relationships. If I see something I don't like, I'm addressing it. And if you continue to do it, I can't be with you. I think we have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to start having difficult conversations and reflections within self so that we can have healthier relationships. I don't think Black love has to be painful love. No. And I think we just all have to do more work on ourselves so that we can show up better for ourselves. Again, you're your longest relationship. But then you're able to show up better for other people.
I mean, yes. And period. I think that's exactly it. Do the work. Look at yourself. Look out there and figure out, what it is that you actually want.
Yes. Because like my old therapist says, some of these people ain't even supposed to know you.
Show link.
They're not supposed to even know you. And you have given them access to a beautiful world, and they don't even know what to do with it. And they don't appreciate it. And they will continue to poo-poo all over it. Because they've never had it. And they don't and they're not doing the work again to be able to be in that space and be like, wow, I'm so grateful. How can I show up better for this person? How can I show up better for myself?
I love that. Like, find somebody who wants to show up better for you and who you want to show up better for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for watching another episode of Courageous Exchanges. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Follow us on social media at Courageous Exchanges. And if you have any questions or comments, email us at courageousexchanges@gmail.com.
Remember to live a courageous and authentic life. Bye-bye. Bye.